Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Okay, I think my voice is alright for right now, so I'm going to talk as long as it'll let me. Alright, I wanted to give some study tips for the medical coding students out there and some advice about what to do when you are newly credentialed and you are transitioning to your first job. How do you stay ready? How do you stay motivated? Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. But before I begin, I want to talk about what I mean when I say to be very specific with your questions. I don't mind questions. I love questions actually because I think it fosters that curiosity that is so desperately needed in this field. Okay, I like questions that are very specific because there for a while I was getting a lot of general questions that were a lot of the same thing that I was talking about a lot in a lot of the videos. And I try to make my content always fresh and new. And I know that I have over 100 videos. So it's a lot of videos to go through. That's why I try to be like as specific as I can in the title about like what's going on in that video. But like what I mean when I say to ask specific questions is like about coding, things like that. The basic questions that are like, how do I get started? Where do I go? These can be answered with simple Google searches. This is why I say, I always put a majority of the videos, I have the both association website addresses on there, as well as my email address, because I get some people asking me for my email address. I put it in nearly all of my videos, and I have it on my YouTube bio page. So again, please feel free to ask questions, but like basic questions like that, how do I get started? How much do medical coders make? These are things that can be answered with a simple Google search. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the study tips. These are the things that that helped me. Okay, sometimes I've mentioned these before, and sometimes in emails to people. And I had actually had one viewer scoff at when I told her that I gave her a list of all the things that I did, and on the list was going to the library to check out different kinds of books. Because to me, the library is free. I mean, it's public, and it is meant for public use. And there's so many titles in there, and there's just a wealth of information by just going to the library. So many people are on their phones, their computers, their tablets. And I think when you sort of get away from looking at actual books, it it does something to studying. And I don't know if it's just because I'm old school or what. But again, like I said, these are things that worked for me. It may not work for you, but when I stress certain things like learning about the prefixes and suffixes, this is a good way to, if you know your prefixes and suffixes to medical terminology, right? You're able to use context clues to put together the word and figure out what the word means. So this way you don't have to sit there and try to memorize thousands of words. You're able to use your knowledge and put context clues together to figure out what the word means. Sometimes you may have to look it up. But knowing prefixes and suffixes helps when you're working with medical terminology, when you are looking up stuff in the procedure book as well. So just keep those in mind. Those things are what I'm referring to when I say those things. And I am speaking from experience. I went through that. I went through medical coding school. I went to a trade school, and it was self-paced. So I learned a lot of things on my own. There wasn't a teacher proctoring us. We were literally on the computer doing self-paced study. This was a 9-month program that I made through in 6 months because I was very determined to get through. I had a lot of fun studying. That was just me. Flashcards. I always advocate for flashcards. Writing stuff down and... Hold on. I'm going to try not to cough too much, okay? But writing stuff down, it gives your mind and body connection. I believe in that, okay? Having that mind-body connection where you're writing stuff down and you're looking at it and your brain is processing it, it helps to commit things to memory. That's my advice. I use flashcards a lot, especially when I'm learning something new. Flashcards can be used at any time, they're portable. One viewer mentioned that she used a ring. Okay, she made flashcards with index cards, and she made a ring. She got a ring, and she, used them to flip like that. So to keep them all together, that's a good idea. There's tons of things that you can do when it comes to that. Also, doing word puzzles. They have free word puzzle creators online. Just Google free word puzzle creators and think of words that you need to remember, and then you can write your own descriptions of that word, and then make the word into a crossword puzzle. So that's another way to remember those things and work with those things. And if you're in a study group, then you can do them for each other and then pass them around, because you don't know what somebody else is thinking. This is just another way to help commit stuff to memory. Just being patient with yourself is a huge thing. Okay. To all my parents out there that are really holding it down and working jobs and taking care of kids and trying to go to school and trying to better your life. I know that sometimes it gets to be you feel guilty because you feel like you're not spending time with your kids. But remember, your kids are seeing you going through all of this and working hard and going to school and things like that. And while sometimes they may not understand, they will remember. And they'll think back on that time when you were studying and when you were holding things down and think, wow, that was my parent doing that. That is such a wonderful role model. That is such a good example to set for the next generation of young people coming up, seeing their parents, wanting to better their life. Medical coding is one of those really wonderful professions. I think it's great, and I'm very biased, but I think it's great because I honestly don't know what I would be doing right now if I wasn't a medical coder. I love it so much, and I was lucky that it found me. Literally, because I didn't know this field even existed. I didn't know until I went to that class at the unemployment office, because it was part of my unemployment package that I had to go to this class. And I didn't know, and it wasn't until my case manager had talked about medical coding that I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know it existed. And now I can't imagine my life without it. I work with wonderful people. I work with funny people, and they make me laugh, and I learn every day, and I love doing those things. But it was a road to get there. I am happy with my life. I enjoy it. I'm excited for the next chapters of whatever's to come, because I have this knowledge that grows every day. And even still, even though I've been out of medical coding school all these years, more than a decade, I'm still studying. But I do it in different ways now. I read the journals. Okay, I get the Journal of AHIMA because I am a member of AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association, and I get their journals and I read. And even though sometimes it has nothing to do with my clinic, it is part of studying, because I'm giving myself as much knowledge as I can. I subscribe to the New England Journal of Medicine, and I read every single one of those. So, I mean, those issues are sometimes they're like little, I start falling asleep because it's just like they start using these huge words, but then I stick with it. And then when I finish a journal, I'm like, oh, I finished another one. It's all about reading. Reading is huge, and that's another study tip I have too. Reading is huge. Okay, just read everything that you can, and if you start to get overwhelmed, don't. Just start with 30 minutes a day. It's like, with exercise, you got to be consistent with it in order to see results. Same thing with studying. Okay, get consistent and set a goal to have at least a half hour. Just at least a half hour. If you can do an hour of study time on your own, that's wonderful. But at least make it a half an hour a day, because at least your brain is like, okay, during this time we have dedicated study time. And I know, like, for my parents out there that are all concerned about spending time with your kids, this is just temporary. Going through schooling and getting a better life for yourself and for your children is just a temporary thing. Okay, you will have time to spend with them later on, but devoting at least a half an hour or an hour to studying is a small investment towards a wonderful future. So keep that in mind. Okay. um, I know it's hard. Trust me. And you think, oh my gosh, I've got all of these terminologies and all these words and these laws and all this stuff to learn. I was there. Trust me. About like week 3, I was like, holy crow, what did I get myself into? Because I was like, I got to learn all of this stuff, you know? I was willing to accept the challenge, but at the same time, I was like, man, this is a lot, you know? And even now, when I take the self assessment for a HEMA, every year we have to do a self assessment for our credential, and I look at all the questions they have, and I think I need to know a little bit about each subject, in which I do. Majority of that I do. I work with a lot of those same subjects all the time, but there are some that I don't, and I'm like, ooh, I have to look this up. I have to really go through this section of the book that I don't hardly use, and I have to do that. So just take it a step at a time, you know. And now, like I said, it's been 10 plus years that I've been in. Every year it gets to be a little bit better and better. Every time I get more confident, every time I take a self-assessment. So you know that but it just comes with time. Take one section at a time. Sometimes you may have like a bunch of words you need to learn, but just work on like one thing at a time. Like if you're in anatomy, right, if you're taking your human anatomy class, just concentrate on the bones, then concentrate on the different muscles and then the muscle groups, and then go back to the bones and quiz yourself which bones are the large joints, which bones are the medium joints, which bones are the small joints, things like that. You can use those sort of things to sort of just break it down into bite-sized things. And like I said, you won't after a while, you keep training yourself to take things in little bites. You'll start to retain it a lot better, and you'll be able to recall these things because you're taking your time to learn all of this stuff. Okay. Don't feel bad if you can't pronounce the words. I have a hard time with the words sometimes. And what did I say? I said I couldn't pronounce sebaceous. So I said hibiscus or something like that. I can't remember how I said it, but I said like hibiscus. And one of the girls was like, it's sebaceous. I was like, wow. Or mediastinum, I called it mediastium. I don't know. And so I was just like, oops. And what was the other one? Adipose. Uh, this one was really embarrassing because one of the PAs that I work with, we were talking about doing how he does his obesity counseling, and I said, well, how are you putting this in here? And then I said, are you talking about the adipose tissue? He says, you mean adipose? So I added it in. What? Oh well, but I mean that was just a few years ago because I didn't really look at the word. All I said was adipose. He was just like, it's adipose, and I was like, it's adipose. He starts laughing, but oh well. And you have to laugh at yourself, and also eat and snack. That's one huge thing. Sometimes when you're studying, you forget to drink water or coffee or tea or snack, because your brain still needs fuel to think. And sometimes people are just, they get into studying so bad and they forget, your body still needs that nutrients and everything to sort of retain all of that. And plus, if you're in a study group, it makes it like a party. Okay. And what other way to get yourself to relax? this is one thing I learned about when I'm teaching and things like that. You know, if people if they're hungry, they're not going to pay attention because they've got their mind on other things. This is why I always try to make sure that I have like water or maybe some candy or something like that out, because this helps to help focus. Okay, you always want to be able to help focus, and you have to do self-care. Don't burn yourself out. That's all I'm gonna say is don't burn yourself out. So those are my tips pretty much. A lot of reading, expanding the way that you are thinking about learning things, whether you're learning it from flashcards or a book or watching videos. Okay, that helped me when I was learning how to do procedural coding. Was I went on YouTube and I was googling or YouTubing different surgeries. There was one surgery video that was about the knee. They were doing a meniscus repair, and I was like, oh, you know how helpful this is to see it in action and be able to say, oh, now I get it. When I was going through and reading op reports, I was like, this does not make sense. They were like, well, we moved this trocar here. We made this incision. I'm like, this doesn't, I can imagine it, but I can't really put it together until I started YouTubing the videos of surgeries. And I was like, now this makes sense. And so hearing them and then looking at my provider's op reports, and I'm thinking, oh, okay. Obviously, this isn't for the same patient, but it you know, it is the video for that particular procedure or whatever. So that when I'm looking at these op notes, I'm like, okay, now this makes sense. And when I'm looking up the procedures in the book, again, it's making sense because I've done something visually to engage myself. Because a lot of times hospitals are not going to let you go into the op room with the doctor to watch a surgery, even though that would be really cool. Okay, to let the coders, or at least hopefully maybe in some teaching hospital out there somewhere, they have like a gallery where you can watch. That would be really cool. Only because I think actually seeing it and being able to tie it with your brain to the note helps to understand what you're looking at, what you're reading. That's another thing. I guess as I'm talking it out, I'm remembering all the things that I was doing before, and watching those YouTube videos really did help me when I was learning how to do surgery coding. Because I was scared of that in the beginning. Oh, I used to be so scared of surgery coding. I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. Until I started watching the videos and started reading about the different surgeries. So it really does help watching the videos. But yeah, those are pretty much my study tips. I will keep doing more study tip videos. This way, if there's new subscribers, and to my new subscribers, thank you. To my subscribers that have been here since the beginning, I appreciate y'all so much. When I see the subscriber list going up, I'm like, oh, thank you. This is really awesome because it helps me to know that I'm doing the right thing for you guys. Because when I was starting out, I didn't think about like seeing and researching for different coders. I was just trying to learn how to code, and again, back then YouTube wasn't a huge thing back then. So I'm dating myself, but anyway. Oh well. But moving right along, how to stay motivated when you are, oh gosh, when you first get your credential and you're going through that wretched period of, you don't have experience, we can't hire you. You don't have experience, we can't hire you. You're passing your test, like your pre-employment test, which is really great, but again, we can't hire you because you have no experience. And I'm like, how in the heck am I supposed to get experience if no one will hire me? That is so frustrating. I remember that. What I did was I went to a temporary agency and I applied with them because the principal of my school, he knew a lady who ran a temporary agency for only medical professions. So her job was to find like doctors and PAs and nurses and medical coders to fill in for people who were out. That was her job. So she did find me a job temporarily the first time, but at first I was like kind of resistant. I was like, I don't want a temporary job. I want a real job, you know. But he would like he explained to me. He said, "And for every position that you get put in, that's more filler for your resume, okay? Because a lot of times if they're going to a temp agency, they're not gonna require all of that other stuff like they normally do. Like if somebody's coming in off the street and applying with them, they're gonna want all this experience. If they go to a temp agency, they're going to expect the temp agency to have already taken care of all of that. They just need a body. They need a body to get in there to start coding and doing whatever. So this is why it's helpful to have those positions on your resume, because every job that you go on, you can put on there, I did this job, I did this job, I did this job, I worked in this clinic, this clinic, this clinic. And this is a really good way to make job connections as well, because when you are out there, and of course you're a new coder and you're hungry, they're going to know this. And when you go in there and you start asking questions and you start coding and things like that, and while you may have stumble at first because it's like, oh my gosh, real world is so different. Real world is different from the book. I'm just saying. And I talked about that previously. Eventually you'll get to it. You'll get used to it, and it will get easier. But you have to be patient with yourself. Whatever you do, you know that you're trying hard. As long as you know you're trying hard and putting in an effort, give yourself a break. Okay? If you have questions, ask them. If you don't feel comfortable, come here. Ask the question. Leave it in the comments. Send me email, medicalcodingwithbleu@gmail.com. Very easy. I'm on Instagram at medicalcodingwithbleu, all one word. I'm very easy to find. Reach out, and I'm pretty responsive. I mean, right away, unless I'm at work. Sometimes it's hard because my signal in the office is really bad. But I do try to check it as much as I can sometimes whenever I do have a chance. And sometimes I get lucky and my phone starts going bleep, 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 because there's a message, and for some odd reason I get signal. But there is really kind of no way to prepare for pre-employment exams. Just another thing, another side note. So the best thing to do, what I would recommend, even though my exercises are not official, okay, I've always said that, my exercises are not official, but it does give you practice with the book, okay? And 2018, 2019 books are totally fine. If you have a 2017 book, for the procedure book, that's totally fine. With the diagnosis book, you may end up getting a different answer from me, but it just depends. But these are a good way to practice. Continue practicing, and just sort of give yourself time to just know that it's going to take time to get your first job. Just be patient with it. This is the most I can tell you, is to be patient with it. And read your journals. If you're a member of the association, whether it's AHEMA or AAPC, read their journals. Go to their coder meetings. Sometimes they have them every quarter. Some have them once a month. Some states have them once a month. I'm not sure. I don't go to mine because I just never get a chance to go. But anyway, that's just a suggestion that I have on that. But stay with it. Eventually, you knock on enough doors, somebody will give you a chance. I had no experience when I had my first job, and it was at the cancer center, and I learned there. And then when 3 months later, when I got my second job, I was working in a hospital, and whoa, I did inpatient professional services when I got there. So I worked everything, every clinic, mom and baby. Oh gosh, internal medicine, med surge. Oh, I did all of those. Psych. So it was a quick, fast learning experience, but I was willing to learn. That's another thing too. Whatever they put you in, you got to be willing to learn. You can't say, oh no, I don't have experience with that. Say yes. Say yes, okay? Say yes and say, I will learn. I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. And have that willingness to learn, because that's all you need, because there's no barrier there. If you start getting resistant and you start feeling like, oh, I'm not going to be as confident, that's when you're going to start getting those barriers up, and the energy can't flow if there's a barrier up. You have to be open and willing to learn, and you have to be willing to fall and get right back up. Fall, get right back up, and just keep going. Whatever you do, just keep going. No matter how many tries it takes, you will get it, and it will reward you if you stick with it. Okay? At least that's my opinion. That's been my experience, because there was times when it was just like, oh gosh, do I really know what I'm doing? And then I said, no, I need to study. If I don't feel as confident, I need to study and go back and read it again. And because of it, I know more now. And I will always strive every day to learn more. And that's what I always encourage everybody, to learn more and to be willing to learn more. Okay? So that's my advice. Stick with it. If you've got your credential and you're applying and they keep closing that door in your face, you just keep trying. Because trust me, I knocked on a lot of doors. I went to about 20 different places before I ended up going back to my school and saying, hey, can you help me? And he sent me to the temp agency. 20 times I was rejected. That's a lot of rejections. And it was at least 20. It could have been more. Okay, but it was a lot. A lot. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close this up because my voice is starting to crack. I need to give it a break. But I'll be back later on, either later tonight or tomorrow with some more videos. So I hope y'all have a great weekend. Feel free to message me and if you have any questions. If you're a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. All right? I will see y'all on the next video. Bye!